Afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another fabulous edition of the Greater Lawrence Chamber of Commerce Chamber Chat. I'm Brad Klopfenstein, president of the Greater Lawrence Chamber. This week we have a very special guest because it's me. So we are here to talk all things Lawrence, ask Brad Klopfenstein anything, and just talk about what's on your mind. Back in the radio days when Bill and I would fill in for Abdul from time to time, we would call this Open Line Fridays. So, which meant we didn't actually prep a show. Yeah, hopefully somebody would call in.
Only crazy people.
So, for those who, hey, there's the cat back here behind me somewhere. I said he might make an appearance.
Yes.
So, now for Erica and Adam and Ross, who don't know my full resume or know exactly all I did before I came to Lawrence, I had a very meandering career, not meandering, I would say fun, spirited. I've sold beer, I've run a steakhouse, I co-owned a bar with Bill, I sold radio, I've run a political party, I ran for lieutenant governor the year that Mike Pence got elected. Let's see, what else? I ran the Licensed Beverage Association, which strangely I'm back to being a volunteer president of that organization now. I feel like there's been a couple other things. So I know lots about Indiana. I know lots about old beers. I have an appreciation for both of them. And now I've fallen in love with Lawrence. So welcome, everyone. Feel free to ask me anything.
What restaurant did you co-own with Bill, and what bar were you involved with? Or did I have that the other way around?
They were one and the same.
Yeah, exactly. So my first start in that industry, I was started at Lone Star Steakhouse. I went in there and I was just a server, and like after about a week, one of the bartenders didn't show up for a shift, and the manager said, "Hey, does anybody here want to try to bartend?" I'm like, I'll be that guy. And I was a bartender for a couple months, and the next thing you know, I got promoted to manager. And that was largely because for any of you who remember the Lone Star Steakhouses, whenever that song, You Never Call Me By My Name by David Allan Coe comes on, they make you get up and sing and dance. And I thought that was ridiculous. So I would stand up on the tallest chair I could find and sing as loud and off key as I possibly could, assuming that they would tell me to knock it off. And that was not the case. Instead, I got promoted. So that's where I started. But then after that, I worked on and off in Broad Ripple for Average Joe's and Rock Lobster. But then Bill and his family owned the Claude Nannies chain. And I would, 10 years or so ago, Bill?
Yes.
You and your brother bought out your mother and kind of split up the stores. And Bill had a store out on the west side, a Claude Nannies, that was on Girls School Road that I think initially was intended to be run by his son. But some of those situations don't always work out. And he asked me if I would come on board and run the thing for a little piece of the action and either turn it around or make it so that we could sell it. And it certainly didn't turn around, so we sold it.
How many Claude Nannies were there?
In total, there were 14, but never more than 7 operating at any given time. 6 was the 6 for the longest time. And then we either sold them or closed them based upon locations where they were, what was going on in certain areas. The last to close was the one up here in Fishers on Highway 37 that they're now tearing up. But Brad and I go back 20 some years. He left out the whole public advocacy thing because in his support of the Wackadoo Libertarian Party, note the Wackadoo part. I hope no one missed that, okay?
I caught it.
He and I were fighting against Mayor Bart Peterson on violent video games when Mayor Bart got elected and he was going to, clear the streets of video games. I don't know if you guys remember. So Brad and I, in our pre-Gray days, well, at least me, fought against that. That was in 1999. So we've been associated since then. This isn't a Bill part-time interview thing. I just happened to get on because Brad and I were talking Friday when we golfed, and I said, well, I'll try to make it. So this isn't Ask Bill. This is Ask Brad.
We can ask Bill. So part of my history with Bill, we fought violent video games. Obviously, I want government to do as little as they absolutely have to do, and otherwise let people make decisions for themselves. So we fought violent video games, which was the government trying to take video games out of the hands of children and adults. We fought smoking bans for a long time, both locally and at the state level. And actually, as much as those all went into effect, Indiana probably had more success fighting them than most states have. And now, we've had other random things. And with the help of Bill, when he was a board member of mine, when I was with the Licensed Beverage Association running the day-to-day operations, some of the alcohol laws that are things that you can do in Indiana that we accomplished during our tenure used to be that bars and restaurants could not serve alcohol after 12:30 a.m. on Sunday nights. We got that to 3 a.m. 7 days a week and had a standard opening time of 7 a.m. 7 days a week. We also got, and largely that was born out of 3-day weekends. So like when you've got Memorial Day or Labor Day, bars would get real busy on Sunday night and then they'd have to close down early. So we got that law changed. Election day alcohol sales was one that we did.
That was a
we
big
legalized.
win.
What's that?
That was a big win.
That was a big win.
And no help to Todd Rikita, I might add.
We got pull tabs legalized for bars. And then also the daylight saving time whole issue, when that came up, that was a case where I didn't care one way or the other on daylight saving time, other than it was an issue. And if you recall, the weekend that was going to take place, Indianapolis was hosting the Final Four that weekend. And mostly as kind of a gig to my friend Abdul, who said that he was a big proponent of daylight saving time. And originally I'm like, listen, the bars are going to have to close down an hour early. And Abdul's like, so what? Anything that happens after 2 a.m., you shouldn't be doing anyhow. So I just put out a throwaway press release saying,
It's a valid point.
Yeah, it is a valid point. So I just threw away a press release to try to get Abdul's goat a little bit. And I just said, you know what, this daylight saving time is supposed to promote the Indiana economy, and in its very first hour of existence is going to cost Indiana bars $400,000 or something like that. And I go, in addition, Indianapolis is hosting the Final Four, so you're going to have all these sports fans that we've brought into Indianapolis, hoping that they'll spend their money. That late game's not going to get done until midnight or shortly thereafter, and they're going to get to go out for about an hour, and then we're going to tell them to go home. So we got a big round of press out of that, just because, as I was told by reporters, they go, yeah, we've been told we can only do 2 stories this week. One is on daylight saving time, and the other one's on the Final Four, and you tied them both together. So we got a round of media on that. I thought that'd be the end of it. Well, then a day later, Mitch Daniels signs an executive order saying bars can stay open to regular hours. So ever since then, bars don't have to turn their clocks back until after they close in the spring when we start observing daylight saving time. So big fun. I'm sure there's a couple other things that we accomplished doing the bar stuff, but yeah, lots of fun. So other questions from those assembled?
What's your status on the golf outing? How is it progressing?
Our golf outing, it is slow. I think we've got about 40 golfers signed up right now. We'd hoped for about 140. So we've at least talked to the golf course and got it to where we're not going to lose money on this thing, but obviously it's typically a big fundraiser for us. So we'd hope that it's very successful, and we're still taking reservations up until really Tuesday morning. So the more the merrier at this point, but yeah, we'd like to see more. We've talked to some other chambers, and they're saying the same thing, as well as all these golf outings that were postponed in May, in June, and July all got crammed back into the third quarter of the year. So we're fighting against several other golf outings that are happening at about the same time. So we'll see what happens.
So should I reach out to Chris Jeter and see if he wants to play?
Damn straight you should. So, yeah, I assume that he's going to win, and he's going to want to be tight with the Lawrence Chamber. Well, he is. Ross, who's on our call,
you can assume that all you want.
Ross is in charge of our government affairs. Ross carries a big stick. I don't think you want to cross Ross.
Thanks, Brad. I don't think that's accurate, though.
Did Ross invite Jeter to play?
I don't know. Ross, we probably ought to meet with Jeter, if nothing else.
Yeah, we should. Do you think he's going to have a close election?
Yes.
I think so, too.
All Republicans in tight districts are going to have a close election. Do I think they'll lose? Not necessarily. But they'll be the numbers are going to be a lot tighter than what you would normally expect because of the Trump effect. So, in other words, I don't think it's going to help them. So I hope I clarified that.
Yeah. Well, for anybody that read that Star article that listed, all the districts that might be tight, every single one of those had a Republican incumbent. So either they hold serve or they lose. But yeah, the Republicans certainly aren't going to pick up anything.
Well, Jeter doesn't have the lift that Bosma did, okay? And so it's going to be a new district. I assume that district covers almost all of Lawrence, right? I don't know the details, but
it covers kind of the northern half. John Bartlett has the southern half.
Okay.
And Bartlett had a primary opponent, but I believe that he's unopposed in the general. So
is he playing in your outing?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. Actually, I say that. Erica, has John Bartlett put in a team yet? Okay. I need to make a phone call.
I'll ask Jeter just because it's not a problem. I think that district's going to be tighter than you would expect, but I think everyone will be. So I don't know that that's going to be a surprise. Do I think he'll win? Probably. What did Bosma win last time? Ross, you know the number?
I don't remember the numbers, no.
Well, it was tighter than he thought. Poon and Gill put on a good race. I think he only got like 54 or 55, which kind of, was maybe a note that it's time to leave. So I think that's why Susan Brooks retired, because I think that district is possibly going to flip. So
that and she was tired of all the BS in the house.
Huh?
That and she was tired of all the BS in the house.
Well, I agree with you 100%. Who wants to be in the minority at this time? I mean, that is just, you're just sitting there with your finger up your behind doing absolutely nothing. You're not creating law. So yeah, I don't blame her. But I also think she saw the writing on the wall.
So now I just had or heard a rumor earlier this week that I hadn't heard before. Maybe it's better known than I thought, but the rumor is that after this election in the 7th district, that Andre Carson is going to step down and become a lobbyist, and that Mayor Joe Hogsett might seek that seat to be appointed to go to Washington, D.C., and then that would open up the mayor's seat in Indianapolis.
Wow.
So
We got to ramp up our plan.
maybe. Hey, I'd love to be a congressman.
That wasn't our plan, but okay.
Well,
We can't reveal the political secrets here, but we do believe that Brad should be mayor of Indianapolis someday. So just keep that in mind, okay?
hey, I'm just going for mayor of Lawton Loop. If I can accomplish that, I'll be happy.
I say that from my perch in Hamilton County, I might note, okay?
Yeah.
I really don't care, but if we're going to have a mayor, let's at least have one that we agree with, even if he is a wackadoo libertarian.
Hey, I am decidedly nonpartisan in this role, and I relish that.
I'm sorry. Was that a secret?
That I was once a libertarian? No, it's
Yeah.
on my resume.
Okay.
And
The wackadoo is my adjective.
yes,
Okay. It's not an official party label.
it's in all the history books. Yeah, the history books do not necessarily say that I kicked ass in the lieutenant governor debate, but we all know I did.
I did. You did. I was there.
Yeah.
Was
You and 200 other people.
Yeah.
So actually, that was fun. So for those of you, there's at least 2 or 3 of you who might not know, I did run for lieutenant governor of the state of Indiana 8 years ago, and I happened to run with a reality TV star. So if you remember, Rupert Boneham from Survivor fame ran for governor, and while he was the celebrity on that ticket, I was kind of the legitimate political guy, as much as I could be a legitimate political guy. That was a fascinating experience. I mostly did it not because I thought Rupert was necessarily going to win, but I thought he had a better chance than pretty much anybody else who's ever run as a libertarian. And if by chance he would happen to catch fire, it would be kind of cool to be part of that circus, if you will. I think,
Did he say circus?
I did say circus. Well, it would have been interesting. The things I know, Rupert Boneham is genuinely the nicest person I have ever met. So the persona that you see on TV, or if you've ever met him in person, he is that way all the time. And it was just fascinating to watch him and how people responded to him. It was interesting. When we do campaign stops around the state, we would have to schedule in 30 minutes just to stop and get gas. Because inevitably, I remember one time, I think we were like Knox, Indiana, and we stopped and got gas. And somebody's walking by and said, "Hey, you're Rupert from Survivor." And he's like, "Yes, I am." Well, then next thing you know, they're texting all their friends, and there's 30 people lined up who want to get an autograph, who want to shake his hand, who want to say hi. So nothing quick could ever happen. But it was neat. The sad thing is, I watched that guy probably
voters.
Yeah, well, exactly. I watched him probably sign 150,000 autographs, and we only got 110,000 votes.
Yes.
So somewhere there was a disconnect.
Yes. So just curious, Ross, since you seem to be the political expert here, what are your thoughts on Holcomb / the wackadoo libertarian / Woody Myers?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's been kind of difficult for the governor lately, but I think he'll prevail.
Do you think he's getting unfairly targeted for these shutdowns and the mask mandates? Just curious.
I don't know about unfair. I just think it's unwinnable. I think no matter what course of action you take, you're going to piss off somebody. There's some people that feel that you should stay at home. Everybody should stay at home. Well, what about the economy? What if it falls apart?
Yeah.
So it's a tough balancing act.
Do you think it will cost him politically? I've seen a lot of social media sites that are Republicans for Rainwater, et cetera. And just before you answer, just as a note, I had considered running, mostly thanks to Brad, had considered running on the wackadoo libertarian party this year for governor. Instead, I passed and Rainwater did. And I don't regret it, other than to say, a lot has changed since that decision was made in January. Okay. What I saw coming, in November isn't anything like what is coming in November. But I do see a lot of enthusiasm for Rainwater, not so much for him, and I don't mean to be negative, as much as opposition to Holcomb. So I was curious if you're seeing that at your level, or?
Like you, reading about it, not really experiencing any of it personally.
Gotcha.
But it's interesting, in 2015, let's say, nobody thought Eric Holcomb would be governor. And then Pence gets the call to go to DC, and there you go. And there were other Republicans that were wanting to run in 2020 back then. One name was already mentioned in this conversation.
Yes.
And all those plans have kind of gone out the window.
I will say in my time following Indiana politics, which is 30 years, I have never seen anything like Eric Holcomb, where you've got a guy who's running basically a distant third
The Senate race.
in a Senate race, who suddenly drops out. You've got the lieutenant governor who may or may not have been encouraged to resign her seat. Holcomb gets appointed lieutenant governor. And then, a month later, Pence gets tabbed to be the vice presidential nominee, and Holcomb gets to ascend to governor. I mean, that is a lottery ticket like I have never seen.
Agreed.
So,
Renewed.
what's that?
It's going to get renewed.
Yeah.
Like it's going to get another chance at the pot. I still think that his chances are better than Trump's. He will likely win. Though Rainwater, we kind of have an internal bet. We think Rainwater may get more votes than the record votes that Brad and Rupert got. Keep in mind, that's 110,000, okay?
I've got to start campaigning against Rainwater.
I predict if he gets anywhere near 300,000, that's a problem for Holcomb, and that puts Woody Myers as the next governor. So it's just my political observation. I'm voting for Rainwater. I hope he wins. But I think that the numbers will be more detrimental to Holcomb. If there really is these groundswell of people who complain that they want him out of office, if they vote. And I want you to know, having witnessed libertarian politics for the last 10 years, everybody talks like they're going to vote for him and nobody does. And so you wonder why do they waste their time talking about it if they're not going to do anything? I mean, I don't get that part. So
it happens. People end up voting against somebody instead of for somebody else. So
right.
It's unfortunate, but that's kind of the system that we're in. So,
which means the third party never really has a chance, right?
Never say never, but it's a hard uphill battle, and heavens knows that I've run against people where they did not have my credentials yet. I got 4%. So Adam, let's talk about beer for a minute.
You're muted, Adam. So
Adam, you are muted.
You're telepathically communicating.
So
it's all about body language.
Yeah. Well, so now you run up to the Elkhart area every couple weeks. My question for you, can you still get Drurys beer up there? And if so, will you bring me some?
I don't know. I can check a couple of the local areas that I stop and see if they have them available. If they do, I will definitely bring you back some.
Okay.
I tend to stop at some of the local craft shops when I'm up there. So Bare Hands, Yakida, Evil Check, those sorts of locations. I will have to check that one out, Brad. I don't think I've ever actually had a chance to go through and find that one specifically.
Okay. Well, so Drurys beer was an old Indiana brand out of South Bend, and they did fairly well post-Prohibition and through the 50s, but then like almost every other regional brand saw their sales erode to the Millers and the Budweisers and the Schlitz and the Paps of the world. And at some point in the 60s or 70s, I don't know if it was a direct acquisition or through a series of acquisitions, Drurys ended up in the G. Heileman portfolio out of La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is old style, and now they've got Stroh's, Pabst. And
so Wiedemann?
They had Wiedemann at the time. Wiedemann was a big brand out of, I think, Newport, Kentucky or Covington.
Cincinnati, along with Berger and Shingling and Hudipole.
Yep. Now, a sideline to my story on Drurys, Wiedemann, I think, still holds the title of having the longest run as the best-selling beer in Indiana. So it was Wiedemann forever, and then it was Pabst, and then it was Stroh's, and then it was Miller Lite, and I might still be Miller Lite. Miller Lite might have it. But anyhow, so Drurys became a G. Heileman brand. Well, then let's see, what was it? Sterling down in Evansville had also been one. And Heileman's had a brewery down in Evansville. That was the old Sterling Brewery. And some local businessmen down in Evansville bought that brewery from Heileman's, as well as some brands. They picked up like Fall City, Drurys, Sterling, Cook's, and for a handful of years made those beers in Evansville. Well, then that enterprise ended up going bankrupt. I think it was just called the Evansville Brewing Company. And I think Pittsburgh Brewing Company, Brewers of Iron City, picked up all those trademarks and then abandoned them about 10 years ago.
Huh.
So several different companies, mostly microbrewers, have picked up some of those trademarks. And somebody at one time was trying to brew Drurys, but they might have gone out of business yet again, making Drurys a 3 or 4 time failure. But
I'm trying to think if there would be a microbrewery up there, because I've heard it on a beer tap list at one time before moving down here, and I'm just trying to think of where that was, because it's been a number of years since I've done that. Wow.
okay.
Oh yeah, I'll have to check a couple of my brewery buddies that are up there and ask them and see if they've heard of it or if they have any additional conversation about it.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you find it, like I say, there's a strong possibility that it went back out of business again. So now we just wait it out until the trademark once again becomes available. Then we'll grab it, and that'll be my retirement gig.
So with Bud and Miller and Coors all be foreign owned, what is the largest U.S. owned brewery?
So Sam Adams, I believe, is the largest U.S. owned brewery, although, this is deep in the weeds, but Miller was bought by South African brewers to create SAB Miller. And then you had InBev, which was a big European brewing concern that bought Anheuser-Busch. Well, then InBev and SAB Miller got together, but then that created antitrust issues in North America. So Miller and Coors and Molson, so there was an enterprise. Coors got together with Molson before the SAB Miller thing, and they all merged. Molson Coors is now a thing again. So that has kind of been recreated, and I believe it's based in Chicago or Milwaukee. Heck, for all I know, maybe Toronto. But anyhow, if you count them, they are certainly the largest North American-based brewer, but possibly not the largest American brewer. But then that leaves Sam Adams as number one, or
Yingling.
Yingling
I've seen
might pass.
Yingling on that list.
Yeah. So it's one of those two. So, but yeah, I'm always fascinated to see where things are, what's selling, what's not selling. Right now, Stella Artois is a big mover. Any of your big domestics, Bud Light, Budweiser, Miller Lite, Coors Light are all having a race to the bottom. My beloved Coors Banquet, amazingly, is starting to go up, or has been going up for several years. Now it was coming off.
Done everything you can to keep that number one in the market.
It is. I've made promises to AJ's Bar and Grill over at 79th and Fall Creek. They picked it up, and I went there last night and had a couple just because they picked it up yesterday. And the Fort Bend Pub has said that they're going to bring it in for me, and I've given them the promise that I won't necessarily drink a lot. Other people will probably drink it too, but I'll go through enough to keep it fresh. So that's the best I can offer and still have a liver.
He's no slouch. He can carry his own on the Coors category.
Yes.
He's my numbers alone in the bar.
Course, patio,
Yeah.
porch.
So yeah. So that's what we've got for this week's Chamber Chat with Brad Klopfenstein. I want to thank you all for attending. Keep in mind, as always, we're going to start at some point running out of Wednesdays to where we can do our cruise in, but based on what I'm seeing from the porch, today's going to be a pretty good day to bring out cars. It's not going to be too hot. It looks like the clouds are starting to lift. So come out for a cruise in tonight. Porter Books and Bread always bring sandwiches and beverages available for purchase. As we were talking about at the beginning, make sure that you're getting your reservations in for our golf outing. That's next Tuesday. We are also accepting prizes and doodads to put in the goodie bags. So we'll take those, or all foursomes are welcome. And then on the 15th, we are doing our breakfast connections over at the Reset Center at 42nd and Post. So get your reservations in for that. And as always, our annual membership meeting is on October 1st at the Garrison, and that's going to be featuring Governor Eric Holcomb. So, Bill, if you attend, we'll ask him how he feels about Don Rainwater.
I'm not convinced I'm allowed south of 96th Street. I mean, there's some question that still remains.
There might be some legal issues and warrants things. So, yes.
There's statute of limitations involved?
Well, I boycotted Indianapolis. This is an internal joke. I'll finish here, but I boycotted Indianapolis for almost 2 years after they passed the smoking ban, and I don't think it hurt them one iota. Okay, I just want to point that out. I don't think anybody gave a damn.
So anyhow, thank you all for joining me on this slightly strange chamber chat. We do have guests lined up for the next 2 weeks. So next week we have from the NASDAQ, Jane King. You see her here locally on Wish TV. She's on about 90 television stations nationwide, and she gives financial updates for those stations. 2 weeks from today, we have from WIBC, Rob Kendall, producer of Chicks on the Right, and then he's got his own show on the weekends. He's controversial, he's fun, and for some reason, he's agreed to come on with us. So mark those on your calendars. Otherwise, thank you all for joining me this week, and I will be seeing you all soon. Have a great weekend.
Good seeing you, Brad. Take care.
Bye.